We are privileged to have with us today Bhante Dr. M. Punnaji Mahathera as our speaker for today under the K3 Dhammananda Lecture Series 2015. Let me read out the profile of Venerable Dr. M. Punnaji Mahathera. Bhante Punnaji is a humble and unassuming Buddhist monk, unquestionably an intellectual giant of modern times, and perhaps one of the foremost among today's world authorities on Buddhism, who a few years ago served as professor of Buddhism at Taiwan's Fo Guang Buddhist University and as the director of Sri Lanka former Mahindu Sarasavija University movement. Bhante Punnaji Mahathera's own insight field knowledge of Buddhism is the result of intensive, all-embracing personal study and investigation, come practice of over half a century as an ordained Buddhist monk. Bhante is a preacher par excellence and continues to draw from an inexhaustible resource of science, philosophy, world history, and psychology. The very topic that caught his youth as a fashionable youth. Bhante obtained his training in meditation at the Island Hermitage, Dodandua. Bhante studied modern science and Western medicine in Sri Lanka and obtained 2 doctorates while in the United States, one in Western psychology and another in Western philosophy and comparative religion. Bhante is going to give a talk tonight on living a good life can take you to heaven. Thank you.
Today, the topic that has been given, of course, is not something that I chose, but it has been given, and that is about how to go to heaven. One very important thing that we must understand is that there are 2 kinds of religion. They are called Deva Dharma and Buddha Dharma. These are 2 different things. Deva Dharma is the Dharma given by Devas, and the Buddha Dharma is the Dharma given by the Buddha. That word Dharma is being used to refer to the teachings of the Buddha and the teachings of Deva. So we have to understand the meaning of the word Deva and the meaning of the word Buddha. Now in modern terminology, that means the words used in modern thinking, and if you study about religion and maybe even comparative religion, the modern university studies and thinking, they speak of we can speak of 2 kinds of religion. One is called theistic religion. and another is called humanistic religion. So it is this theistic religion that considers religion to be something that has come down from heaven to earth, carrying the message of the creator of the world, or maybe it is the message coming from the supernatural beings called gods. And when we talk about the humanistic religion, we are talking about a religion that has grown up on earth to satisfy a human need, to solve a human problem, using human intelligence. These are two ways of thinking. It is very important to understand that. Now, what we call Buddhism is a humanistic religion. We are not talking about a religion that has come down from heaven to earth. We are talking about a religion that has grown up on earth to satisfy a human need, to solve a human problem. Now, in the western part of the world, there is a period that started in the 18th century. That period is a period when science began. And it was during that period that there was Isaac Newton, Galileo, and all these various kinds of scientists came up. And they brought into consideration a very important truth about life. And that truth is called determinism. And determinism means that everything that happens in the world, all the natural occurrences in the world, they occur only due to the presence of the necessary conditions. When the conditions are present, it happens. When the conditions are absent, it doesn't happen. What this means is, in ancient times, people didn't know this. People thought that when there was rain or when there was thunder, when there was lightning, or when there is an earthquake, or when there is something like tsunami, all these things happen only because God is doing this, or gods are doing this. The world is controlled by these supernatural beings. And that is why they began to pray to the gods to help, to get help from the gods, to change our circumstances. But when this science began to come up, people began to understand that things happen not because of gods and devils and supernatural beings. Only when the necessary conditions are present, it happens. When the conditions are absent, it doesn't happen. So when this idea got into the minds of the educated people, they lost faith in the religious dogmas. When they lost faith in the religious dogmas, something happened. Because these religions, although they were talking about these supernatural beings, they were also talking about another important thing. And that is, there is a problem with these human beings. That problem is, these human beings sometimes begin to become greedy for things, and sometimes they begin to become angry. And as a result, they begin to harm other people. And they begin to fight and quarrel. And so this religion has been pointing out there are some laws of these gods. Gods have laid down rules for the human beings, and God will punish the human beings for doing the wrong things, and the gods will reward the human beings if they live a good life. So that idea of punishment and reward became necessary to make the human beings live in the proper way. So when they began to lose faith in the human religion, the idea of good and bad also became challenged. So they started saying, well, if there is no God, we don't have to worry about being good. If we are not going to be good, We can kill and fight and quarrel, we can steal, we can commit adultery. All these things can be done, we won't be punished. So that became a problem. They lost faith in the religious dogmas, and they lost also the idea of good and bad, right and wrong. So that became a problem. So religion was not only speaking about supernatural beings and supernatural powers, he was also talking about being good and avoiding being bad. So this is a problem. But now, when we talk about the teachings of the Buddha, the Buddha, it was the Buddha who pointed out the importance of being good, not because of the fear of punishment. We can be good without the fear of punishment. And that is by becoming what is today called becoming civilized. Now, what is being civilized? To become civilized is to broaden the mind. Broadening the mind. Our normal life is a selfish life. A selfish mind is a narrow mind. Narrow because we are only thinking about ourselves. If we are thinking only about myself, only I want to be happy, I don't care about other people, only I should be happy, and I don't want to be unhappy. And in order for me to be happy, I have to look after myself and satisfy my desires. That is the narrow way of thinking. And it is because of this narrow way of thinking that people begin to fight with one another. And today, if we look into the animal world, what we notice is all animals are self-centered. They are only worried about their own food and their own life. And one animal lives by eating other animals. If you go into the animal channel where they talk about animals, you'll begin to see that when one animal begins to go in search of food, another animal comes and catches that animal and eats. So while going in search of food, the other animals come and make that animal the food. So if life is like that, so it's a life of insecurity. And today, even the human world, people are doing the same thing. Now, we don't see very much human beings killing other human beings and eating human flesh. But still we find the human beings killing other animals and eating their flesh. But there are some human beings who are called vegetarians. But who are vegetarians? They are also eating living things. Vegetables are also living things. You see, human beings are also living by eating other lives, even the vegetarians. So if this is something that was a creation of God, so it is the God who has done this. But now we have understood that the world is not based on a God or some supernatural being. Everything is happening due to the presence of the necessary conditions. Now it is this fact that the Buddha brought into the world long before the Westerners began to understand this law of determinism. The Buddha had a different word for this. He didn't use the word determinism because he was not speaking English. So he used the word paticca samuppada. Paticca samuppada was the same thing. He said, Hetung paticca sambhutang hetu bhanga nirujjati. Hetu means the necessary conditions. Hetung paticca sambhutang, when the conditions are present, it comes into being. When the conditions are absent, it ceases to be. That is the meaning of hetung paticca sambhutang hetu bhanga nirujjati. So he was talking about determinism. But today, the modern science is based on this law of determinism. Now you know that even human beings, they cook their food. And to cook the food, they need fire. Now, in the primitive days, they didn't know how to make fire. How did they make fire? When they wanted fire, they had to rub two sticks together for a long time till they became hot. But today we have this thing called the match. We only have to strike a match and the flame comes up. Now we have other methods. We have this thing called electricity. So we can get a flame through electricity. We can cook food even without a flame. We can use what is called the hot plate. It is only heating the plate. You see, so how did human beings find the way of producing a flame? They used this law called determinism, because they were thinking in terms of the necessary conditions to produce something. If you want a flame, what are the conditions necessary for a flame to arise? And they found the conditions and they produced the match, which contains all the necessary conditions to produce the flame. So striking the match is simply making use of what is called friction. And the other conditions were also supplied, not only friction, but there was something like gunpowder at the tip of the match. And there is also another condition, oxygen in the air. All these things are there. So that is how they produced it. In the same way, now they have what is called the motor vehicle that can run at very fast speed. Not only that, they have the airplane that can even fly in the air. So all kinds of things. We have the fan, we have the air conditioning, we have the electric lights. All these, all because we are using human intelligence. It is by using human intelligence that we are able to do these things. So that is why today, when a person falls sick, they don't run to the church, they run to the hospital. Why? If you run to the church, they are the gods in the church who will try to help you. Or you may be praying to the gods. But if you go to the hospital, you get the doctors and the nurses to help you. They use human intelligence. So today people begin to have more faith in human intelligence. And that way of thinking is what is called humanistic thinking. So Buddhism is a humanistic religion. But some people say Buddhism is not a religion, it is just a philosophy. Why do they say that? Because they think religion means believing in these gods and supernatural beings and trying to get help from the gods. That is not true. That is only the theistic religions. Religion is not simply believing in gods. Religion is an effort to solve the problem of existence. Now that is how the Buddha spoke of religion. Religion for the Buddhist is not something that has come down from heaven to earth carrying the message of the Creator. Religion is a way of solving a human problem. And the human problem is the problem of anxieties, worries, fears. It is called the insecurity of life. It is the insecurity of life that needs to be solved. So religion is a method of solving the insecurity of life. This is why the theistic religions have a hope. What is that hope? They hope that they can go to heaven after death. And heaven is a place where there is eternal life and eternal happiness. But what is that hope? That hope is only a belief. No one has seen this heaven. No one has seen these gods. The only way you can see God or heaven is after death, not in this life. But people believe in these gods and heavens only to overcome the fears and worries, the insecurity of life. But the Buddha pointed out that the only way to solve that problem is not to be hoping for something that is only a dream. Which cannot be proved. So instead of hoping for something unknown, we should use our human intelligence and solve the problem. That is why Buddhism is a humanistic religion. And it is through this humanistic way of thinking that the Buddha pointed out that we have to solve the problem by broadening the mind. How do we broaden the mind? To broaden the mind is to go beyond ourselves and to think of all beings, not only people of our family, not only people of our nation, not only human beings, even all animals, even plants, all living things, may all beings be well, comfortable, peaceful and happy. To keep broadening our mind and to think of all beings, that broadening the mind makes us see that our problem is simply a small speck in an ocean of problems. It is like a drop of water in the ocean. The drop of water is nothing when you compare to the waters of the ocean. In the same way, our own problems become nothing compared to the problem of all beings. And they are all suffering. And when our mind becomes broad, we begin to become interested in the welfare of all beings. That my happiness and others' happiness is equal. Others' happiness is as important as my own happiness. So this distinction between myself and the others disappears. Just as the mother is thinking of her only child, that is called karuna. This universal interest in the welfare of all beings is called metta. And thinking of others' happiness equal to our own happiness, that is karuna. When that develops into karuna, what happens? all our unhappiness disappears. Why? Because the self-concern disappears. All unhappiness is self-centered. When the self-centered thinking disappears, all unhappiness disappears. And when all unhappiness disappears, we become happy as a result. That happiness of selflessness is called mudita. So we have metta, karuna and mudita. Mudita is the happiness of selflessness. But that happiness is not an emotional excitement. It is a calm, tranquil state of the mind. When that calm, tranquil state of the mind appears, our attention is focused within, and we begin to discover that there is no self within to worry about. No self to satisfy or defend. Whatever happens in the world outside, gain and loss, fame and ill fame, praise and blame, pleasure and pain, these are the changing vicissitudes of life. When these changing circumstances change, our mind is not disturbed. And when the mind is not disturbed, all unhappiness disappears. And if everyone can broaden the mind in this way, there will be peace and happiness in the world. Here and now. We don't have to wait till we go to heaven after death. We can be happy here and now. And when we are happy here and now, all suffering comes to an end. If there is some kind of rebirth, because our mind is free from selfishness, greed and hatred, if we are reborn, we'll be reborn in a good way. If there is no rebirth, that is also not going to be a problem for us. So you see, it is very important to understand that the teachings of the Buddha is very different from the theistic religions. So the theistic religion is what is called Deva Dharma. And the Buddha Dharma is the humanistic religion, the humanistic way of thinking. So, I hope you understood this, and if you have any questions, you can ask now.
One thing, the teaching of Buddha, you just tell, very interesting. But as you know, there's other religion teach differently. And we have to mix with them. Right? We have to mix them, work with them, travel in the same train and all that. And if you're teaching, we're going to apply your teaching with them, and they look at us, they will be angry. And they will get rid of us. Right? They will burn your church, you burn your temple, they change your subject and take all your book. When they convert to the other religion, they throw in the dustbin, flush in the toilet. They can be very aggressive. So how would you respond to their action? If they say their God is supreme, the creator, so you are not doing their way, we're going to punish you. So how is Buddha teach you to handle this kind of aggressive violence?
Well, I didn't know that you have come. You have. So, well, Buddhism has nothing against other religions. Buddhism is only pointing out that when people have lost faith in religion, and when they have even lost the idea of becoming good and bad, the teachings of the Buddha has a solution. So it's not going against any religion. He's only talking about the meaning of religion and also the meaning of being good and avoiding bad. And that is how there will be peace and happiness in the world. Everyone is praying and hoping for peace. But while hoping for peace, they are fighting. One religion begins to fight with another religion. Why is this? Because of the emotions of people. The important thing is to gain control over the emotions. And it is the Buddha who points out the way to gain control over emotions, is to become aware of the emotions and begin to seek calmness and tranquility of mind, instead of being carried away by emotions. That calmness and tranquility of mind under all circumstances is what is called nirvana. Nirvana. Vana means shaking. Nir means not shaking. So the mind should become calm and tranquil. And this is why it is very important to learn to meditate. To meditate is to learn to gain control over our thinking. And it is by learning to relax the body and calm the mind that the mind can become calm and tranquil. That's the important thing to understand.
I was in college today, and then there was a topic lah. They say that there are some Islam in Myanmar who are practicing, and then there are some extreme Buddhists who burn them alive. So I thought that Buddhism don't promote violence. I mean, even if they bomb the sculptures, they wouldn't take action. But why do they kill the people? Can you comment on that?
Well, I think you should become a monk and begin to learn meditation. Then your problem will be solved. We don't have to worry about other religions. The important thing is to worry about your own thoughts and learn to control your thinking. That is the meaning of meditation, to watch your own mind, not to be watching other people's minds or trying to correct other people. The important thing is to correct yourself. And once you have learned to correct yourself, then you can even teach others how to correct themselves, because each person has to correct one's own mind. Other people cannot do that. This is why the Buddha said, you yourself has to follow the way. The Buddha can only teach people how to do it. This is very important to understand. So if we have no other questions, we can bring this to an end for the day.